Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. Please,
Do not know it's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice? Warm water, baby. It's bubbling, baby. Warm water! Warm water!
It's 6 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you know what that means. It is time for Fire and Ice. I got my dude, Brandon the Iceman Cone, hanging out with me today. A lot of stuff for us to talk about. Like literally minutes ago, there may have been a major announcement at the University of Texas, El Paso. Maybe not, Brandon? Like what do you have on what's going on right now with UTEP, the basketball head coaching vacancy that we've got going on right now?
Well, I mean, the latest that we've seen is that the position has been offered to ACU coach Joel Golding, and ultimately he has not yet accepted the offer. As a matter of fact, supposedly ACU is trying to match that offer. So, I mean, you can either only assume that maybe the offer wasn't nearly as large as it maybe could have or should have been. I know that ACU does have some money. They have some money, especially since they've become D1 in the recent years. And also they got that big victory over Texas in the first round of the tournament. So an up-and-coming program with certainly a good amount of shekels, not as much revenue as a mid-major like UTEP, but the job has officially been offered to him. And obviously the ball is in his court, no pun intended, but ACU may very well match it, and he may very well want to stay because he's already established and comfortable there.
All of the puns were intended on that. Don't you dare lie to me and pretend like they weren't intended on that, Brandon. I have a worry about what's going on with UTEP, and now knowing that ACU is out there trying to match this offer. A lot of people are saying, "Look, this is a reliable source. It's reputable, and it's as set in stone that he's going to be coming over here to UTEP." I don't buy that right now. If ACU is out there and Abilene Christian, if they're out there trying to match this offer, we heard their we heard their higher ups, Brandon, say that they made a whole bunch of money off of beating Texas. They had a lot of things going their way after beating Texas. Like it's not like this is a broke program. I have a feeling we're getting played. You know what I mean? Like, hey, ACU, I'm going to dangle this carrot in front of you, then I'm going to go over to UTEP, and you will match this offer because you don't replace a coach like that right away.
No, you don't. And I mean, I'm sure he's listening to it because we all know that, albeit CUSA is at best mediocre conference, it's still a step above of being at a school in Abilene, Texas. And the fact remains is that, yes, they did beat Texas, and sure, they made the NCAA tournament the last couple of years, but there is a lot of – hold on, we may have some breaking news. I'm seeing that let me go ahead and UTEP's new it says UTEP men's basketball expected to hire Abilene Christian's Joel Golding. So that's what I'm hearing. UTEP men's basketball has hired their next head coach. So he spent 10 years at Abilene Christian in the Southland Conference, and he will become the Miners' 20th head coach in program history. That is official from what I'm seeing. And again, interesting decision on their part. I mean, I guess you can't really argue with the decision just because he is one of the hotter coaches in mid-majors. But, I mean, he wouldn't have been my first choice. I would have went with Weir. I'm not Weir. I would have went with I'm talking about Weir, the kid from New Mexico. I would have went with Jans. I mean, my head's a little famished right now. I would have probably put Jans number one, and then the assistant Tang from Baylor as number two, and I probably would have had this gentleman 3 or 4, Joe Golding. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of happy with the hire, but I think that Jans would have been the absolute best fit for this program.
But this is the thing as well, is like you can make that pitch to Jans all you want. It's up to Jans if he wants to come down here and do it. There were talks that Jans got interviewed. Clearly, Jans didn't want to be a part of it, right? So like those delusions need to get out of people's heads. If you're old boy at Baylor, you just won a national championship. The second national championship in the history of the state of Texas, the first at Baylor. Why would you take that step back? Like, I feel like that job can parlay itself into the opening at Texas Tech, and all of us are taking that opening at Texas Tech over to UTEP at this point in time. So to me, like those could be your two guys, but the question would remain, why would they come to UTEP? I could see why the guy from Abilene Christian would come over here, because yes, it's a bit of a step up. But again, there's that specter over the shoulder of what that says. It says they're expected to. I don't like that word expected to. I like the word they have hired. Like it has been agreed upon. There's ink on paper and it's all been signed. I guess digitally now it's a digital signature. It's all been signed and we're good to go. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear expected to, because again, there could be issues that happen there. We've seen a lot of these trades out there, Brandon, following professional sports where they're expected to do something. Someone's expected to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and it just doesn't come through fruition. It like for me, I'd be much more excited if it was done in stone.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. Nothing's set in stone, as my dad used to say, until the check's cashed, the money's in your pocket, you're driving down the freeway 55 miles an hour. And he was right. I mean, there's still some things that who knows. I mean, but ultimately it looks like this is going to be the situation where they are bringing in Golding. Look, the man has a great coaching pedigree. The man has turned around a program in Abilene, Texas. You think it's hard to recruit in El Paso, Texas? Go to Abilene and tell me how hard it really is to recruit. So to lead them to the tournament, to lead them to a victory in the first round over a perennial powerhouse like Texas, who was great all season long, speaks volumes about his recruiting ability. He knows the state. He's familiar with the area. Don't expect miracles right away. That's the thing, is that fans want something right away, Mike, and they're not going to get it. It could take 2-3 years easily to rebuild this program. And let's not kid ourselves, Tip. This program needs a complete rebuild, because more than likely, you mean to tell me you think Williams is going to stay now that, it's Terry's gone? No, I think he's as good as gone. I think that all the major pieces, any pieces that were left, are as good as probably gone. So you're looking at a complete rebuild here for the most part.
And I like that you hit that. Like, there needs to be patience. That's the main thing that we had to look at here, is there needs to be patience. I don't think that people were patient with Rodney Terry. I don't like, and they were overly patient with Tim Floyd, which is like a weird thing there, right? Like what should be the realistic expectations for this team, for UTEP, now that they've got their new coach? What should the expectations actually be?
Well, again, you need to win at least 20 games. I mean, the thing is, though, you're talking to fans that are starving for an NCAA tournament berth. Hey, they're starving for a win in the CUSA tournament, much or less back to the big dance. But as far as I'm concerned, anything less than 20-plus wins is a major disappointment. And I say that because, again, this guy knows how to recruit, but he used to develop a lot of high school talent. And there is some good high school talent locally here in El Paso, but maybe perhaps he had more to choose from based on the area that he was in before, because we know that a lot of kids choose to leave El Paso. You don't see many local kids playing for UTEP. I mean, you just don't, men's and women's. We have Katia Gallegos, but that's a true rarity. But the point is that he's going to hire an exceptionally good staff. He's known for having a good staff. And the fact remains is that they have a great budget in Conference USA to be able to assemble that all-star coaching staff. And I think this guy, he brings a lot of positive attributes to the table when it comes to turning this program around. It just, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a few years, folks.
All right. So earlier today, you and I were talking, and I don't know how this impacts the guest that we are going to have. I'm kind of hesitant on even announcing if we're going to have a guest or not. Maybe do we just like dangle the carrot? Maybe coming on the show.
I mean, I hope he's going to come on the show. Obviously, he's got a little bit of news to break right now, but he said that he hasn't texted me or anything. It's looking like it's good. And I mean, what a better guest than to be able to talk about the potential hiring of Golding, even though it hasn't been made, set in stone. But from what everything I'm reading on Twitter, it seems like it's set in stone, I guess.
Stephen White, one of my dudes, asking, do you think that Golding really wants to rebuild UTEP, or will he try to parlay this into a bigger payday? It's going to be a bigger payday. It's eventually going to lead itself into something bigger. I can't see anybody at this point in time really wanting to stay at UTEP for extended periods of time. I think the days of UTEP having the 10 to 20 year coach is done. And Brandon, it is an honor to have our guy with us, the bearded wonder himself, the best looking man outside of Andy Morgan on KTSM Sports. Colin, thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm on my way back from high school soccer Final Four. I pulled over at the Horizon truck stop. So if my service cuts off, if I go out, that is why. But I had to be on here with you guys today. So
Thanks for joining.
I will say this, Colin, you are in my former neck of the woods down over there by Socorro, so I know exactly how terrible the signal is over there, and all is forgiven for you, my friend. Let's go into it. Looks like UTEP has their guy. Was this who you thought that UTEP was going to hire?
Well, I do want to say, obviously, Jeff Goodman from Stadium is saying that they're expected to hire him. I'm not here to question Jeff Goodman. He's the kind of the Adrian Wojnarowski of college basketball reporting. However, I was just on the phone with the source. UTEP and Abilene Christian are still, per the people I've talked to, they're still going back and forth a little bit. His buyout of, I think it's like $250,000. They're going back and forth on that a little bit. Obviously, UTEP, we're all in a pandemic. We're all a little bit strapped for cash. UTEP maybe doesn't want to pay the entire buyout. Abilene Christian, obviously, wants the entire $250,000. So they're negotiating that out right now. Joe Golding has not been given the contract as of yet. So again, I would still feel comfortable saying he's expected to be the head coach at UTEP. Generally, these things get figured out when you put whatever it is, agents, athletic directors, lawyers in a room. Generally, these things do get figured out. So, and I will say, I mean, this is the guy when Rodney Terry left officially last Tuesday. I was told that Golding was kind of the guy that UTEP was going to make a big run for, and you're seeing that. A week later, this is the guy they've offered the job to, and as of now, it seems again it's trending positively in that direction for the Miners.
Colin, let's talk about Golding. I mean, he's had tremendous success turning ACU around, a big first-round victory over Texas. He's known as a coach who is able to assemble a phenomenal staff. He likes to develop high school talent, and he's run an elite defense for years, which kind of fits right into the whole profile of UTEP. Do you think this is a guy that can win here relatively soon, or are we looking at a few years and fans have to be extremely patient as usual?
I think that he's a guy, like as you mentioned, Abilene Christian. That was a complete rebuild. Like they were Division II when he took over at Abilene Christian in I believe 2011. Like that's a completely different kind of rebuild than what it's going to be at UTEP. I mean, they were not a good Division II team. They were a bad Division II team. And he took over, and 8 years later, they were in the tournament. 9 years later, or 10 years later, I guess, they're winning a game in the NCAA tournaments. So it took him some time at Abilene Christian. I think he's got 70 wins or something over the course of the last 3 seasons with a couple of NCAA tournament trips. To me, like this was the guy to me that was like the top candidate, in my opinion. Like once Rodney Terry left, again, he's not going to have to deal with the same kind of like building the program literally from nothing and then becoming a Division I team. Like there's a pretty good base for UTEP already. We'll see what happens with the transfer portal and players that are already on the roster potentially leaving. We don't know how that's going to completely play out yet. But again, it's UTEP. It's already in a good starting place. And I think with a guy like Joe Golding, who's got a great identity as a coach, his teams they played tough defensive basketball. They led the nation in forced turnovers in 2021. I really think like this is going to be a really great hire for UTEP. Miners fans I think are a little impatient. You guys know that, having been here a little bit longer than I have. I think know that Miners fans are a little impatient. So I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, next year UTEP's going to be the NCAA tournament. But I do think that Golding has the tools just as a coach and as a program builder to really get the job done here.
I know that that's what everyone wants to see. They want that hardcore defensive basketball. That's what everyone wants to see. They don't want to see the ball moving up and down the floor fast and three-pointers, none of that. We want defense. We want to stop the pick and roll. That's what we're going to build ourselves on. I don't know, like, I'm kind of numb on this hire. Like it's a decent hire to me. Like obviously he just beat Texas. He had a great run in the NCAA tournament. I feel like though they could have gone somewhere else. Like there could have been somebody better from all the stuff that you were looking at, from all the reports that were out there. Who was like the next guy if it wasn't going to be Golding?
I think you were looking at two guys. I think it was probably Chris Jans from New Mexico State, and Jerome Tang, the assistant at Baylor, who's been there since 2000. I mean, those obviously that list of finalists got put out. A couple of Pat Costello says he's the guy. Obviously, we saw that list that got put out there of Tang, Golding, Jans, David Patrick from Arkansas, and obviously Doc Sadler. To me, like the three names that I heard, I mean, really from day one were Jans, Golding, and Tang. I always felt like this is a 3-horse race, and really, I mean, I said this on Twitter yesterday. Like whoever they hire, if it's one of those three, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. I think all three of them, and Patrick too, would have been a great hire. Doc I was kind of on the fence about, because like you don't really want to go backwards, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I think that all three of these guys, the Tang, Jans, Golding, I was really high on. So I mean, if this falls through with Golding, I don't think it will. But if it falls through, like they have two other really solid backup candidates. So I don't know. I mean, I just think of those three candidates were solid, and whoever was going to get it is going to get it done. So.
How do you see him acclimating to USA? I mean, I know it's not a great conference by any means. It's one of the lower tier mid-major conferences, but you are jumping from the Southland, which you turned in ACU to a perennial power in the Southland, going to CUSA, which is, at best a mediocre conference, but yet UTEP has yet to be able to take advantage of its mediocrity for you.
That remains to be seen, because nobody, I mean, Barbie had a decent run a couple years back. Floyd had an okay run, but there's not really been a UTEP coach that's really had a strong stretch in Conference USA in all of its different forms and configurations over the last 15 years. It's a mid-major conference that gets one bid to the NCAA tournament, but it is a really deep league. Like there are some really good teams, or mid-major teams that when whoever gets to the tournament, you've seen over the course of the last few years. I think it's in the last 5 years, 4 Conference USA teams have won a game in the tournament. Obviously, we saw North Texas do it this year. It's not a bad league at all, even though it is a one bid league. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it remains to be seen. I mean, everyone wants to hope and think that Golding is going to be awesome the second he gets here. Maybe he will be. I tend to think whoever you hire. I mean, if you hired Mike Krzyzewski to come to UTEP, I think he's going to need a year or two to get things going a little bit. But again, I really think he can have success here. Abilene Christian from the Southland Conference, as you said, they won that. They were either winning that conference or in the top 2 or 3 the last 3 years. Obviously, Abilene was they're going to the WAC next year, joining up with New Mexico State with a couple others. But yeah, no, I really think he can. If given the chance, given time, I really think he can get the job done.
So our guy Colin Deaver is driving into El Paso on the side of the road right now. You're covering some high school soccer, the Final Four. What was going on over there?
All right, so Del Valle played Frisco Wakeland in Midland today, and yeah, I mean they dug themselves an early hole. They were down 2-0 at halftime, but I mean, they made a heck of a run in the second half. They scored on a penalty kick 5 minutes into the second half. Had a couple of really good chances to tie it. Wakeland goes and scores to go up 3-1 with like 20 minutes to go in the half. Del Valle comes back literally a minute later, scores, and it's all of a sudden 3-2 again. Kind of the big turning point and kind of what killed the rally was they got a red card. Del Valle got a red card about 15 minutes to go, so they're playing down a man the last quarter of an hour. Had a chance to tie with about 4 minutes to go, but then Wakeland was able to get the goal to kind of put it away with like 3 minutes to go. They ended up winning 4-2, but it was a great game and another good year for El Paso soccer. I mean, 2 years ago, Bel Air San Eli won state championships this year. Del Valle made it to the Final Four. East Lake boys also made, they made it to the Elite Eight and 6A. So yeah, good year for El Paso soccer for sure.
Recently, sticking with high school athletics, I heard you did confirm that Chapin's KJ Lewis, he's returning to the Huskies for his junior season. Big news for that program. And obviously, we know he's had offers from the likes of Kansas, which those offers should completely blow up potentially next year. Talk about how important it is to returning to Chapin for his junior year there.
Man, that's huge. I mean, obviously for Chapin, I'm completely fine with saying this. KJ Lewis is the best basketball player to ever come out of El Paso. And I understand Nolan Richardson, Jim Forbes. I understand Cliff Tucker. Like, there have been some dudes that have come out of El Paso, but I have absolutely no issue saying KJ Lewis will be the best of the bunch. He's top 25 recruit as rated by ESPN in his class. And that the reason this was a story that he's coming back to, I mean, it's for people who are like unfamiliar, of course he was only a sophomore this last year. Of course he's coming. Like, some of these top guys, they'll go to prep schools. I know there's some schools around the country, like a Oak Hill. There's one in Henderson, Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, that's big for college play or high school basketball players. I mean, it's a common thing. Like Kevin Durant, I think Bradley Beal, Tracy McGrady went to like these prep schools. Like, it's a very common thing for high school basketball players to do, to just like get more exposure. And I mean, it's really cool that he's sticking around with Rodney Lewis at Chapin and for his junior season, and kind of building on what was the best year that Chapin's ever had for boys basketball in the last year. So no, I think it's really awesome. It's just, you can't. I mean, it's great. Just it's great for KJ, and it's great for Chapin. It's great for high school basketball in El Paso.
So you got no problem saying that he's the best basketball player to come out of El Paso, knowing that you're looking me in the face right now.
Knowing that I am on this call and I'm looking you in the face, I have no problem saying it. That kid is gonna play. That kid's gonna play in the NBA. I don't want to put, I hate putting pressure on a 16-year-old, but like, that kid's the truth, man. That kid is so good. And he works his butt off. He's just such a great kid. Like, if you ever get the chance to meet him, he's just a really, really good kid. And it's really hard not to root for him because of that. I mean, he's not only is he super hyper talented, he's just a great kid. I can't say it enough. So,
well, Colin, I'll tell you what, I think that it's good that we had you on right at this particular moment to kind of potentially break the Golding story. I think the timing's everything. And when I talked to you earlier today, I don't think we knew there was going to be an announcement until maybe tomorrow. But I think that it's really interesting. I guess I'll end with this question for you. He's been known for someone that has developed a lot of local and a lot of high school talent in Abilene. Do you feel that we'll see more potential high school kids? You're talking of high school kids. I mean, you talk about more kids maybe deviate and come over, or rather than deviate, come to UTEP as opposed to just always go somewhere else.
I mean, I would hope so, but that's also dependent on El Paso high school basketball players. I mean, if there's to win it at the high Division I level, the way people want UTEP to, you got to have really, really good players. And to do that, sometimes you got to go outside of El Paso to do it. Not saying that we don't have good basketball players here, but to me, it's dependent on, as much as it is on Joe Golding or whoever gets the job to recruit El Paso, it's equally as dependent on the kids of El Paso to be good enough and worthy enough to play at that level. So, and we have, in my opinion, between 5 to 10 kids every year that could probably, play at that level. And it's just, it depends. It just depends. Like, sometimes schools in a recruiting year, their needs might be a post and a wing. And if the only players in El Paso that are have the talent to come play at UTEP are guards, then that can be why a kid doesn't get an offer. It's interesting how it happens that way sometimes. But I mean, Golding has ties across the state of Texas. I'm sure he has ties in El Paso too. I mean, he's
he's going to hit the ground running. I know. I mean, he's so well thought of, not only just in Texas, but nationally as well. I mean, I think he's going to be, on all levels as a recruiter, what have you. I think he's going to be just fine here.
He is the Rec League Nikola Jokic. He has taken time out of his day to join us today. Colin Deaver, you can follow him on Twitter at Colin Deaver TV. And, of course, on KTSM News Channel 9, will we be able to see your beautiful face tonight?
I believe so, yeah. With the way this story is going right now, I believe that I will be going straight from high school soccer to the Joe Golding story in our 10 p.m. show. So looking forward to it.
So now we need to find a way that like Brandon and I can like infiltrate the show. Like just drop a little fire and ice in there, and I think we'll be happy.
I got you guys.
Hey, thanks a lot, buddy. Be safe on your way home and have a great broadcast later on tonight. And we appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun. See you next time.
Yes, sir. See ya. Our guy, Colin Deaver, great dude. So knowledgeable, always in like the high school sports and good things like that. Again, though, the big story happening here in El Paso, UTEP seems to have their new basketball coach. Brandon, give us the details.
Well, so here's the situation. This is what we know so far, that Abilene Christian, their coach Joe Golding, would become the program's 20th head coach. There was a $250,000 buyout, but remember that UTEP did get $500,000 for Rodney Terry, so you still get to keep $250,000. Keep in mind that he's been at ACU since 2011. He's known as and running an elite defensive program, having a plethora of great assistant coaches around him, and being able to really recruit within the state of Texas, and especially developing a lot of local talent. So now the last part I don't know, because again we don't see a lot of local talent stay here in El Paso, but supposedly they're just finalizing a deal. I mean, all I've heard is that, nothing's set in stone necessarily, but they're offering him the job, and he's set to become their 20th head coach in program history.
20th head coach in program history, the 8th since Don Haskins, which is like that is just mind-blowing, man.
You're like, whoa, like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, whoa.
Well, I don't know about that part there, Brandon, but I mean, again, though, like you have a brand new coach coming into a brand new system. He's going to have to recruit his own guys. There's going to be a learning curve here. What should the realistic expectation for UTEP fans be?
Well, again, this is going to be truly a rebuilding year, because they're going to lose a lot of players because Rodney Terry's now at Texas. How many players is Terry going to take with him? I think there's no way on earth Bryson Williams is going to return. I feel that you already had, 7 or 5 in the portal, and how many more? Who knows how that was going to happen. So you're going to be rebuilding completely. And not only that, but who does he bring with him? You have to ask yourself that question. Who comes with him? Because, it's interesting, because it's kind of like Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me? You know what I mean? So, Eddie, we know the way it goes. When one coach jumps ship, they go somewhere else. Who else, tends to join them? So it's going to be really interesting to see who else joins him. That could help the program instantaneously next year. But I think on over 20 wins, best case scenario, you can't expect them to be very competitive, more competitive than you want them to be next year. Realistically speaking, fans got to give this guy 2 to 3 years. But he can make it happen.
Our guy Joe John saying that as far as Golden goes, ACU is still trying to keep him. Yeah, and like I told Brand, I'm not super excited about this until I see in stone he has accepted everything and ACU is backing off of everything out there. Our guy Colin Deaver did just say, though, that it seems to just be the buyout right now. It's just is all it's coming down to is what the buyout
They have
is.
plenty of money for the buyout, so that's not an issue.
I don't know. It's UTEP. They may have just blown it on a nice weekend out in Juarez. It's been a while, man. It's been like 2 weeks. It could be gone, Brandon. Don't put it past them.
Juarez? That's funny, dude.
Hey, man, $500,000 in Juarez goes a long way. Also, our guy Joe John saying we'll give him 4 to 5 years. A coach that can beat Texas, can adjust to winning games. Fresno State wasn't all that bad with Rodney Terry. Fresno State was a pretty damn good team with Rodney Terry, and yet y'all bailed on him at the drop of a hat, man. It seemed like year one they dropped on him. And I wanted to bring this up to you, Brandon. You say that the realistic expectation is winning 20 games. In his first season, it's a failure if he doesn't win 2/3 of his games?
I mean, look, this is a program that, look, Rodney Terry came in. He wasn't doing great. They were one and done in the tournament. People are going to have high expectations, and you could argue that they're going to have very unrealistic expectations because of the mediocrity that this program has brought with them for several years now. And the fact remains is that Golding is one of the hotter coaching candidates. I mean, he just won an NCAA tournament game against Texas. That speaks volumes. So a man's known as a great recruiter, good defensive coach, things that you all want to bring to a program like UTEP. The expectations are going to be very high from the beginning. There's going to be a lot of pressure from the beginning.
Well, Joe John's going out and saying that Rodney Terry wanted to go back to Austin. He was not going to be at UTEP for the long run. We spoke about this earlier on the show. I don't think anyone's staying at UTEP for the long run.
Why would they? Why would they? And here's the thing. Look, you're going to make, with incentives and all that, a damn good living for living in El Paso, Texas. I mean, I think Rodney Terry was, with bonuses and whatever, was making well over 600 grand, 700 grand. That's wonderful. But can you compete with a mid-major or another program in a Power 5 conference that's offering you $1 million, $2 million a year, plus the opportunity to win a national championship, go to the Final Four? It goes on and on and on. I mean, you know, all I know is that it's nice, and I see that Joe says he's been there for 10 years. If he lasts more than 3 or 4 years, look, you and I both know this. He wins CUSA one year. They go to the tournament. He's gone like a fart in the wind.
Yeah. Because it comes down to he finally has sustained success at ACU, comes over here to UTEP. If he's able to bring this program to any type of relevancy, just like a small monicum of relevancy, that's a huge win in the public eye. All those other universities are going to be like, look at what this dude was able to do at Abilene. Brandon disrespected all the good people at Abilene, said if it's hard to recruit here, imagine what it's going to be there. I also agree with Brandon. It's hard to recruit here. If he's able to recruit here, turn this school around, there's going to be big opportunities knocking at his door, because it's going to be those USCs. It's going to be the Texas Techs. It's going to be Texas A&M. Like, those big name schools are going to say, hey, their fans are going to be just like these UTEP fans, where they're going to say, we want the guy. We want the hot coach that's out there. Look what he did at UTEP. Imagine if he had real resources over here. And UTEP's not going to be able to match $1 of what these bigger programs will put out there.
No, absolutely not. But here's the thing. You got to understand something. There is a unique situation to be able to have a coach like this come in. Look, you're getting a hot head coach. That's what you guys want, okay? And this needed to be a much better hire than Rodney Terry. And ultimately, you're bringing in the guy that's coming off the emotional high of beating a team like Texas. And it's not easy to take a D2 program, go into D1, and all of a sudden get that big NCAA tournament victory. I mean, when's the last time UTEP won an NCAA tournament game? It's been years. We all know it's been forever and a day. The point I'm trying to make is, you know, you had Doc Sadler here briefly. You had Gillespie here briefly. Barbie was actually here a longer tenure. But think about it. They all turned out to be really good coaches. Everybody was very happy about the results. What else can you really ask for? Is if he leads you back to the tournament and then he's gone, then you get another hot assistant, another head coach from somewhere else. You know, it's always going to be a stepping stone because of it's UTEP. It's a mid-major. It's in El Paso, Texas. Take it for what it is. But if you keep getting good coaches and they have success here, then that's all you really want, is just a winner.
We need to find a way to get in contact with Coach Golding and make sure that we get our guy Omar Thomas a bit of an interview. Like even if it's just an interview to be an assistant or some sort of special advisor to that team, we need to have the connection of Omar Thomas back at UTEP doing so. I know he's at Pebble Hills right now. I know he's having a great time over there. But I mean, there has to be that connection. You got a guy that loves the city of El Paso. Let him learn how to be let him learn from a good head coach. And then maybe if this coach leaves, he can take over the helm. And I guarantee you he would be here much longer than a lot of these other coaches would be.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you have to love the local. I mean, I know that OT's from Philly and all that, but he's practically local now. He's working here. His wife's from here. It would be nice, and that's why for a minute there, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was believing that Doc was a legitimate candidate to come back, but that turned out to be a big.
The first text you sent me this morning.
It's because I was talking to OT yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, man, wouldn't it be great if Doc got hired and he'd bring you on your set, your set?" And he's like, "Yeah, that'd be wonderful because he'd be an assistant coach or director of player operations or whatever." But I heard, "Oh, he's a legitimate candidate." Yeah, if you believe that, I got some legitimate swampland over here in Northeast El Paso to sell you. Come on now. So that was all smoke and mirrors and a bunch of crap. But anyways, it was good to hear it for a minute, right?
Well, to me, what I'm surprised about, Brandon, is that my campaign ad just got squashed. Well, like I put it out there, and I got a few backers out there. There were some people that loved it, but then it died.
Unfortunately, and I'm sorry that your shtick didn't go farther. But once they found out who you were, they said this guy's gone. You know what I mean?
but imagine imagine you go to the coaching interview, it's the press conference after the game, we lose by 50, and they're like, "Hey, what happened?" I'll be, yeah, what did happen, coach? Tell me what happened. I start talking to myself in the fourth person. I guarantee you, they all think I'm crazy. I'm let off the hook.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. I mean, you haven't had a chance to show what you can really do yet, Tip.
My dude, Brandon the Iceman Cohen, hanging out with me here on Fire and Ice. It's a Tuesday. It's been a very UTEP heavy Tuesday. Again, though, we got to give some love out to Del Valle. Their soccer team making it all the way to the Final Four. Came up just a little short this year. Hopefully next year we get to run it back. Colin hit the nail on the head. It's been a good couple of years for soccer here in El Paso.
Oh, yeah. It's been exceptionally great. You look back a few years ago and Bel Air, I mean, a great run that they had. I mean, and of course, Del Valle, all the competitive soccer that they've played. What was it? Was it San Eli as well, if I'm not mistaken, that won a championship, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So, I mean, come on, soccer. Everybody wants to talk about football and basketball. What about soccer? And how about the legit high school players that we have in the El Paso areas in general, and the city, of course? But my goodness, every single year they're competitive. You're talking deep runs in the postseason, and ultimately you're also looking at another situation where a Final Four run. You can't beat that.
I wanted to do that on purpose. We're talking about soccer here on Fire Nights. It's not my strong point. It's not one of the things I'm good at, but we're going to talk soccer here on Fire and Ice. Brandon, the MLS is looking to expand. It looks like there were some issues going on with the team up in Seattle, I want to say is where, or Sacramento, sorry. There were some issues with the team up in Sacramento, and it looks like they might not be going to Sacramento. They're talking about possibly MLS expanding to San Diego, MLS expanding over to Las Vegas, MLS and some of these other spots. I'm looking at the MLS. I'm saying, look, you've already got a built team here. Why not just think outside the box, think outside of Vegas, think outside of San Diego, places like that. This city is a soccer town. I've said it a bunch of times. It's baseball, it's soccer. This is what El Paso is. I didn't say it's a basketball town before it's a football town, which is so strange for the rest of Texas, right? Why not? Why not the El Paso Locomotive, the EP Locomotive in the MLS? Brandon, talk me off this ledge.
Well, I mean, look, this is a good soccer town. I agree with you on that respect. But is it really an MLS town? I don't know that it is. I mean, I think that you have to have the product longer here to really prove to me that it is an MLS town. And I feel that there are a lot of soccer fans, certainly, between Ciudad Juarez and El Paso, that could fill up a stadium. But then again, the proof should be in the pudding. I think that it's considering that they're a newer franchise, that it's literally, in its infancy stages, you can't really convince me that all of a sudden we would be ready for that type of professional team. All right. Not to say they're not very popular, not to say they don't have brilliant marketing, not to say you don't love their bat. He's a great bat, but you can't really convince me. And sure, they've been competitive every year so far. But I mean, ultimately, you can't really just say, yes, all of a sudden El Paso, without a doubt, is an MLS market. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that they would support that. It would take a lot to support an MLS franchise here in El Paso.
Well, so you look at it, right? Like you have to have a fan base. You have to have a dedicated fan base. It needs to be for an extended period of time. Let's look at San Diego. San Diego literally just lost their NFL franchise because they weren't filling up the stadium over there. They can't fill up the Padres, and the Padres are a super exciting team right now. Vegas, we have no idea what a crowd is going to be like in Vegas. Like, yes, the novelty of the Raiders being there for football, how long is that going to wear off? Because they're going to get their ass kicked every single year by Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City as long as they can keep that team together the way that they're constructed right now. That's going to go by the wayside. You have to be able to like sit there and tell me that Sacramento, who was this close to losing the Sacramento Kings about a year ago, is a better sports town than El Paso.
Well, they have the Kings, don't they? I mean, they may have almost lost the Kings, but they still have the Kings.
Yeah,
and I mean, the fact remains that
Kevin Johnson, the mayor, was like, hey, we're going to leave this damn team's going to stay here. Like, he basically hijacked
well,
the
they
team.
also got a new arena. They also got a new arena tip. And is El Paso willing to build an MLS team, a new stadium? Because the Sun Bowl's great, but it needs – I mean, they've gotten renovations, but it's still old. I mean, you're not going to play indoors. You know, Southwest University Park is great, but it has very limited capacity. So, I mean, are you going to build – a brand spanking new arena? Haven't we had issues for years with trying to build the arena from the 2012 Quality of Life bond? And it was hard enough to convince people that Southwest University Park needed to be built. I mean, it was like asking for a friggin' miracle, for crying out loud, which is one of the best things the city could have ever done. But I mean, I just think it would be an uphill battle. But yeah, I mean, Sacramento. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but they do have an NBA team. Just saying.
But so let's do this. I am basically the mayor of Socorro. What if MLS came to El Paso, but they built the stadium out there right across the freeway from the Amazon plant that they're building out there right now? Would you go out to those games? Because I feel like you would go out to those games.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Why not? I mean, but if I was a diehard fan, you know, as far as I'm concerned, Tip, you know, you've lived all over the world. I've lived in some big cities. To take a schlep out to Horizon or maybe Far East El Paso isn't that bad in El Paso as it is in, let's say, Chicago or LA or Houston, where traffic is literally a nightmare. People complain about traffic in this town, but it really isn't that bad. If you love and you're passionate enough about a sport, you'll schlep 30 plus minutes to go watch a game. Why not? It's not that bad, really.
No, that's what I'm saying. So don't build the stadium downtown. There are restrictions with the stadium that's downtown. They have to be able to do something. Why not put it out over there? I'm just saying there's a lot of land out there in Socorro, but I really would like to see more here. You know what I mean? Like, again, we're the 20th largest city in the country. We have Ciudad Juarez literally right next door, and they come over here all the time, and they spend their money, their hard-earned money here. I feel like we just need more, and I would love to see the Locomotive, because they've been doing so good, get called up. I was this close, Brandon, to actually messaging former Miami Marlins president, David Sampson, follows me on Twitter, which is also pretty funny. I was going to message him, like, how hard would it be to get the Chihuahuas to, like, move up, like, expansion with the MLB? Because I feel like there's going to be expansion soon with the MLB.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen expansion in MLB. Trying to remember, Tip. Let's see. It's been, gosh almighty, forever and a day. I mean, technically speaking,
97, 98.
Since the Marlins, since the Florida Marlins at the time, and the Colorado Rockies were 93, right?
Tampa Bay and Arizona.
Tampa Bay and Arizona. So what year, do you recall what year Tampa Bay was?
I want to say that was like 98, because I remember it was like 3 years that the Diamondbacks were around, and then they won the World Series against my Yankees.
It's been a long time, let's put it that way. But, I mean, again, are we looking to expand the market right now because of what's going on? Is MLB happy with 32 teams? It seems like a good number. I think you would clearly have to expand to 2 more markets, but there's a lot of other teams out there, a lot of other cities that would be craving a major league, baseball team, without a doubt.
Brandon, we basically buried it. I know you wanted to talk about the UFC. You watched the UFC. My friend, while you were doing that, I was watching WrestleMania because I'm a nerd. I will let you give me your recap of everything that happened on UFC. What was it, like 9,642, right?
Well, well, you're talking about. I mean, there was an interesting card last Saturday. It was an early card on ABC, but I think that you're really getting excited about UFC 261 next Saturday, which is going to take place at a sold-out Jacksonville, Florida. And it's interesting because the reason why UFC President Dana White decided to have it in Jacksonville is because it's the first arena that said it would have 100% capacity for a UFC championship bout for UFC 261. So it's going to be really cool. We're going to have a special guest on next Tuesday to break down UFC 261. She's phenomenal. You're going to really enjoy it. I'm excited. You'll be excited. I don't want to spill the beans. It's going to be great. It's going to be cool. It's a surprise, folks, but you got to wait till next Tuesday. So I can't preview anything until the card gets closer, Tip.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Did you watch WrestleMania this weekend?
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. What
was your favorite match?
Who fought? I don't that crap. I mean, are you kidding me? Unless it's Andre the Giant fighting Hulk Hogan, I'm not going to watch, dude.
Wow, man, you really just dated yourself there. That is not a good look for either one of us, Brandon. All right. Well, again, though, the big news of the day looks like UTEP basketball finally has their new head coach. Again, Golding coming over possibly from Abilene Christian, but there's still some issues going on with the buyout. We'll see how that goes. Brandon, as always, my friend, it's been a pleasure. It's an honor doing this show with you. You know I got nothing but love for you, my guy.
Hey, right back at you, buddy. I love you. You're the greatest. I look forward to it every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And all I have to say are 3 words. You're my buddy.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And we're talking about the UFC next week. I probably should have paid attention to that.